Hello and welcome to Gears Training. In today's training, we will review some of the body metrics available within the Gears system. Let's get started. To look at the body metrics of a swing, simply pull the swing up, and in this area, after you have loaded the swing, in the info panel, you will see club, which has all of the club metrics, and if you had an avatar with that swing, body, which will show you all the body metrics available for the system. We'll go ahead and go through these one at a time and take a look at their accompanying visuals. First, X factor. X factor is the difference in the amount of rotation between the rib cage and the pelvis at the top of the swing, represented in degrees. This metric can be found at the side panel shown at the current frame and graphically in the body graphs tab at the bottom of the screen. You can also turn the X factor visual on and off, and many of these visuals on and off, by clicking Visuals and checking the box here. Sway. So there are two types of sway. First is the pelvis sway, and the second is the rib cage sway. Sway is the lateral movement of the pelvis and rib cage throughout the swing, represented in inches or centimeters, depending on whether the units are set as imperial or metric in settings. This metric can be found on the side panel shown at the current frame and graphically in the body graphs tab at the bottom of the screen. Okay, next is thrust. So thrust is the forwards positive or backwards negative movement of the pelvis and rib cage, represented in inches or centimeters, depending on whether the units are set as imperial or metric in the settings. In addition, we have lift for both pelvis and rib cage. This is the up or down movement of the pelvis or rib cage. Again, centimeters or inches based upon whether imperial or metric has been set. Turn, which is the rotation of the pelvis, rib cage, and spine around the vertical axis. Negative equals back rotation into the backswing, positive equals forward rotation into the follow-through, represented in degrees. Finally, bend. Bend is the angle of forward flexion of the pelvis, rib cage, and spine relative to horizontal, positive equals forward, negative equals backwards, represented in degrees. Side bend is the angle of lateral flexion of the hips relative to the global horizontal, positive is right, negative equals left, represented in degrees. And finally, the lead arm shoulder adduction angle. This is the angle between the lead upper arm and the horizontal line of the shoulders. There is an additional metric available that will show on certain types of cashers, which will show the lead wrist set angle as well. So we can see that here. Next, we have the kinematic sequence. The kinematic sequence is the rotation of the hips, rib cage, lead arm, and club head about each segment's individual internal vertical axis or the spine axis at the time of address. These metrics can be found in the side panel at the current frame. Joint angles are the flexion angles in the sagittal plane of the right and left ankles, knees, hips, and elbows. Frontal bend is the angle of the forward flexion of the pelvis and rib cage relative to the global vertical. Positive is downward, negative is upward. Lateral tilt is the angle of lateral flexion of the pelvis and rib cage relative to the global vertical. Positive is right, negative is left, represented in degrees. These metrics can all be seen in the side panel in the current frame. Many of these metrics are available for you in these body graphs here, and are very useful for deeper analysis, particularly of the kinematic sequence and of some of the angles that are available to you. You can see these graphs larger by clicking this icon here, or reduce the graph by clicking the icon a second time. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.